Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 11 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. The other day, my electricity went out.
Oh.
I always thought if my electricity goes out, I'm okay. What do I need electricity for? So the electric company weren't able to do anything until the next morning. So I said, that's okay. So I got up in the middle of the night and the bathroom was dark.
No flashlight, huh?
And I get up very early for this show, so I was out of there before the electric guys ever got there, and it was dark. I didn't even have a candle. So I love electricity. Admiral Don Loren is on the phone. He is the national chair for Vets for Energy, and that is a group of volunteer veterans across the country dedicated to sustaining America's national security by advocating for pro-energy policies. I'm so anxious to hear about this. Admiral Don Loren, good morning, sir. What an honor. Thank you for being on our show.
Well, good morning, Laurie and Robin. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I am calling from the vast wasteland of the suburbs of Washington, D.C., Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay. So what kind of policies should we be paying attention to? I mean, it seems like everybody has a political agenda, and the rest of us just want to know what's best for me, you know? What's going to be the best for the kids, for the children?
Well, if I could bottle that up and sell it, I certainly would have done that already. To what's best for everybody. But you touched upon the very essence of what Veterans for Energy is. Veterans for Energy is a grassroots organization. We like to think representing the 23 million veterans in our nation today that just want to make sure that the American public, when we have discussions, debates, make determinations on energy policy, that we thoroughly investigate and take into consideration the national security perspectives associated with each and every energy policy decision that our leaders, our government, that we as a nation make, because energy is such a critical part of our lives, as you pointed out when the electricity went out in your bathroom.
Yeah, right.
And so that's what we do.
Okay,
that's what we do. Focus. We want people to have that discussion.
And the national security, is that based in part because a lot of our fossil fuels come from the Middle East?
Well, that has something to do with it, but let me be very clear. National security is not merely military. There's something called the National Security Strategy of the United States. The last one was issued in 2015 by President Obama. We're anticipating a new one will be issued by the Trump administration. And national security takes into consideration all of the facets of our security: military, diplomatic, economic, employment, defense. So these are the things that make a nation strong, and they're all connected by the fact that we are an energy nation. There are none of your listeners that can look around wherever they are right now and not observe something that wasn't produced, manufactured, transported, or cultivated without energy. So we're an energy-dependent nation, and the Department of Defense is the largest consumer of energy in the nation today. So yes, our military, yes, sir. And so our military might is also vastly dependent upon energy. And then you get all sorts of ancillary type of considerations, as you just mentioned. The energy independence and not having to depend on oil from nations that are not necessarily friendly to us. The use of energy to blackmail others, as quite often the Russian gas cartel has done with our Eastern European and European allies. So these are all interrelated, and you must understand when you make energy policy decisions that have to be made in the context of national and global security.
So help us understand it, because it sounds like you do understand it, and you understand it clearly, and that may not be true for the rest of us. So give us an example of a policy that would send up a red flag.
Okay, well, here's one that comes to mind. If you will recall, during the previous President Obama's administration, there was a ban on oil exploration and development offshore. A vast majority of the lands offshore, where we have tremendous oil reserves, we believe. We've been precluded from that. Well, the reality is, here's a case in point. It takes several years to conduct seismic exploration to determine where the reserves are. That takes another couple of years to secure the leasing and the legal aspects of it. It takes another couple of years to actually go out and develop and produce the petroleum products from that offshore rig. So by putting a moratorium for 7 years on offshore drilling, you must add to that the 7 years plus about 10 years before you can get that first drop of oil from the ground. So now we have delayed the ability to access our American resources of petroleum offshore by 17 years.
Oh my gosh! So can I?
That's not a wise decision.
No. And one of the things we heard when the oil spill in the Gulf happened was that part of the Gulf is actually international waters. So we can, as a country, ban oil drilling all we want, and other countries will still be taking oil from those same those same places, those same wells.
Well, that's certainly a possibility. I mean, you get into the complexities, and I'm not an attorney, thank goodness, of 200-mile economic exclusion zones, and then the difficulties associated with doing something that far out to sea and that deep of water. But yes, technically you are correct in saying that. But the point is, the continental shelf has tremendous resources to us. Here's another case in point. Look at the vast coal reserves of the United States. Now, for one, I understand completely the arguments of that for efficiency right now, because we have access to it, because of the benefits of fracking, we have significant amounts of natural gas. But we're Americans, for goodness sake. Can we not determine or come up with the efficient ways to use the tremendous coal resources we have in America and do that not only economically and efficiently, but while being good stewards of the planet ourselves?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So what about the alternatives that people talk about? Is that a good policy? The wind turbines, for example, the ocean turbines I've heard about. I don't know if that's even put in place anywhere yet, but are those alternatives, are they feasible, and are they a problem as far as our security is concerned?
You bet they're feasible, and Veterans for Energy is an all-of-the-above energy supporter. So you're correct. Solar, wind, geothermal, ocean waves, nuclear, you name it, and ways we haven't even determined yet. We believe those should be used. The problem we have right now, they are not economically feasible to produce the amount of energy we consume as a nation. And the other part of that is, again, you look at from a national security perspective, the reality is, how do you make those R&D, research and development, decisions and investments? Well, you make it from the profits you make from the existing commodities. So the bottom line is, the biggest investors in renewables are the energy companies today. If you are precluded from making a profit, if you are precluded from selling your product, then you don't have the profits to reinvest in the exploitation of new renewables. So it's a usually complex cycle, and that's what we want people to think about.
Well, can't those businesses introduce the new ways gradually? Then that way you're not really replacing something right away. It's taking a gradual turn.
Well, it is going to be gradual based upon technology, although we've all seen that technology can be asymptotic in the fact that you have a breakthrough tomorrow, and who knows, solar may be the most economic and feasible swarm of energy on the planet. But we're not there yet today. But the reality is, unless the large energy companies are not making a profit, then they don't have the means to be able to reinvest part of those margins into the development of new products. Yeah.
It makes sense, Admiral. Thank you for being on the air. I don't want to say goodbye yet, but I wanted to make sure we got the website out there. I have here on my notes, vetsforenergy.com.
That's correct. That's our site. And the other thing that we are into is we are into employing veterans in the energy industry. And you'll see all sorts of information about veterans employment in the energy industry on that website, including a translator that helps translate military occupational skills to jobs in the energy industry, and then that can be reversed. And so we think that another resource of this country are the young men and women who have worn the cloth of the nation, and we promote their being employed in the energy industry.
Well, thank you for being on the air. Thank you for your service, and thank you for what you're doing. I think, again, like most things, it's good to have a watchdog. It's good to have somebody who's paying attention and letting us know what's going on. Admiral Don Loren, thank you for what you do.
Thank you both, Larry and Robin. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The president signaling a willingness to compromise on funding the southern border wall as lawmakers try to